So, what if the internet had like a safety cop, a regulator with the power to fine tech companies millions of dollars? Well, in Australia, that's not a what if. They're running one of the most ambitious experiments on the planet to make the internet safer by law, and you can bet the rest of the world is watching.
I mean, it's a huge question, right? Just think about it for a second. Imagine if a social media app had the same legal duty to prevent harm as a company that builds bridges or manufactures cars. It would literally change everything about how the online world works. Well, here's the thing. In Australia, this isn't some theoretical debate anymore. It's happening. They are running this massive real-world experiment with their Online Safety Act, and it is absolutely forcing some of the biggest tech companies on Earth to rethink how they do business. So let's break down how this powerful system actually works. Okay, so first, let's look at this from your perspective, the user. Australia has built what it calls a safety net, a system that's designed to catch you when platforms fail to deal with serious online harm. The whole idea is that it's an escalation path. Let's say you see something seriously harmful. The first step is what you'd normally do. You report it to the platform. But what if they ignore you? Or they come back and say it doesn't violate their policies? Well, you're not out of options. You can take that complaint to a powerful government regulator, the eSafety Commissioner, who has the legal muscle to investigate and actually force the platform to take the content down. Now, at the heart of this system for adults is the Adult Cyber Abuse Scheme, or ACAS. It is a world first, but, and this is a really big but, look at that legal bar. It is super high. The content doesn't just have to be nasty, it has to be posted with the intent to cause serious harm. That means platforms need really sophisticated systems to figure out not just what the content says, but the context and the intent behind it.
Okay, so this all brings us to the real powerhouse in Australia's strategy, the eSafety Commissioner. And let's be clear, this isn't just some advisory committee that writes reports. This is a regulator with actual teeth.
Seriously, let that sink in for a second. While other countries are still debating what to do, or maybe they fold online safety into some broader communications agency, Australia went ahead and created the world's first government body with one single, dedicated mission: policing online safety.
And this is where you can really feel the pressure kick in. When the eSafety Commissioner issues a takedown notice for child cyberbullying material, platforms have just 24 hours to comply. That is an incredibly demanding deadline that forces global moderation teams to drop everything and prioritize these requests from Australia, no matter what time zone they're operating in.
And their powers? They are broad. They can order the removal of all kinds of abuse material. During a crisis, like a terror attack, they can order internet providers to block access to sites streaming it. And, this is the crucial part, their authority goes beyond Australia's borders. If your platform has Australian users, you have to follow Australian law, period. They can even issue what's basically a commercial death penalty, ordering a non-compliant app to be kicked out of the app stores.
But here's the thing you have to understand. This whole safety net, taking down bad content after it's already out there, that's really just phase one. Australia's real goal is something much, much bigger. It's about a fundamental shift from being reactive to being proactive. And this slide, wow, it just perfectly illustrates this massive shift in thinking. The old model, the one we're all used to, that's the firefighter model. It's reactive. It waits for a fire to start, then rushes in to put it out after the damage is already done. But the new model Australia is pushing for, that's the building code. It demands that safety is designed into the very structure of the platform from day one to prevent the fires from ever starting. The burden is no longer on you, the user, to report harm. It's on the platform to prevent it.
Now, the official name for this whole philosophy is safety by design. It basically means that when engineers and designers are building a new feature or a new algorithm, user safety isn't some afterthought you tack on at the end. No, it has to be a core requirement, just like making sure the app doesn't crash. And for services kids might use, it means things like privacy settings have to be set to maximum security by default, not wide open.
Okay, so you're probably wondering, how do they actually enforce this? Well, they've got a whole toolkit. They're creating mandatory codes for different parts of the tech industry. They're forcing services like messaging apps and cloud storage to do formal risk assessments of their own platforms. And through something called the Basic Online Safety Expectations, or BOES for short, they're making platforms look in the mirror and analyze the risks of their own products, from their recommender algorithms to generative AI, and then report on what they're doing to fix those problems.
This all sounds ambitious, but what happens if a company just decides not to play ball? Well, Australia has designed a system where the financial risk of not complying is becoming, frankly, just too big to ignore.
Let's use a real-world example. The law has rules to try and stop kids under 16 from having social media accounts.
If a platform is found to be systematically failing to enforce that, the penalty for that safety failure is up to 9.5 million Australian dollars.
But wait, that's not even the big one. See, the act of verifying a user's age means you have to collect personal data. And if the platform messes that up, it's a privacy breach under a totally separate law, Australia's Privacy Act. And the potential fine for that? Up to $50 million.
Right, so here's the really clever part of the whole system. The biggest financial threat to a platform isn't the safety failure itself, it's the massive privacy violation that can happen when they try to fix that safety problem badly. This brilliant regulatory link forces companies to find privacy-friendly ways to check age, because invasive methods that slurp up too much of your data suddenly become a huge financial liability.
So, where is all this heading? Well, it's all building towards what many believe is the final and maybe most powerful piece of the puzzle, a legally binding digital duty of care.
Proponents, like the folks at Digital Rights Watch, argue this is the only way to truly fix the problem. They say instead of just playing whack-a-mole with harmful content, a duty of care would force platforms to reform their core systems, the very algorithms and business models that can amplify harm in the first place.
But of course, there's another side to this coin, and it's a big one. Privacy advocates are deeply worried. They're concerned that to fulfill this duty of care, especially when it comes to checking ages, platforms will be forced into the mass collection of our most sensitive ID data. They worry that in the name of safety, Australia could accidentally create a new system of mass surveillance, locking in the very data-hungry business models they're trying to change.
And when you zoom out and look at the global picture, you can really see just how unique Australia's approach is. While the EU and the UK are very focused on systemic risk, Australia has created this unique hybrid. It's layering those same proactive, systemic duties on top of its existing, very powerful and very fast content takedown system. And the result is one of the most demanding regulatory environments for tech in the entire world.
Which brings us back to the huge question hanging over this entire experiment. Australia is betting big that it can use the force of law to create a fundamentally safer online world. The challenge is, can it actually do that without sacrificing the very privacy and freedoms it also wants to protect? The rest of the digital world is watching very, very closely to find out.